Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Guess who's back? Back again. Yes, I'm back on GB News after something of an absence, which I will talk about in just a moment. Tonight we'll discuss the migration figures. Labour say it's all because of the weather, but is that really credible? We had the defence spending review yesterday, and Keir Starmer says we are going to be, as a country, battle ready. But do we actually believe him? And I will discuss what I think is a very distressing case of a police officer out there. He'd been commended before, doing his job. He's been kicked out of the force in what I think is frankly nothing less than a kangaroo court. What on earth is going wrong with our police force? Have they gone soft? Have the police forces gone woke? But before all of that, let's get the news with Sophia Hill.
Nigel, thank you. A very good evening. It's just gone 7 o'clock. Let's bring you up to speed on the headlines tonight. Top story, the Tories have dismissed government claims that a surge in small boat crossings is due to the better weather in the Channel in the first part of the year. The government has, for the first time, published the so-called red days, where favourable weather makes crossings to the UK easier. They showed that there were 60 red days between the 1st of January and the 30th of April this year, where wind speed, wave height and the likelihood of rain all affected the crossings. Now, Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp has claimed that the government's excuse is similar to that of a lazy student saying, "The dog ate my homework."
Numbers have gone up regardless of the weather in the English Channel. Look, the simple fact is this: 2025 so far has been the worst year in history for illegal crossings. There is no excuse for that. And frankly, if the Labour government's plan for border security is to pray for bad weather, then we're in big trouble. Their own Defence Secretary says they've lost control of our borders. Their plan to smash the gangs lies in tatters. They made a catastrophic mistake by cancelling the Rwanda deterrent just a few days before it started, and this is the result: total loss of border control and the largest number of illegal immigrants crossing the Channel in history.
Around a dozen officers searched another abandoned building this afternoon next to a vineyard as part of the probe into the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. German and Portuguese officers are working near abandoned buildings just a few miles from Praia da Luz, where the 3-year-old vanished in 2007. It's part of an investigation into the prime suspect, Christian Bruckner, who's currently in prison and due for release in September, unless new charges are filed. Madeleine's family say their determination to leave no stone unturned remains as strong as ever. And the UN has called for an independent probe into the civilians harmed whilst trying to get food into Gaza. This comes as local reports say that 27 Palestinians were killed by an Israeli fire near an aid distribution site in Rafah early on Tuesday morning. The Israeli military says its troops fired warning shots at the individuals who approached from outside the designated aid routes and posed a perceived threat. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, backed by the US and Israel, runs the aid site, though the UN and the major NGOs have refused to cooperate, calling the system unsafe and politically compromised. Defence Secretary John Healey, speaking on behalf of the government, has called the situation agonising.
We must allow the aid that's so badly needed to get into the civilians. We have to see the hostages released as well. So that's why we're backing in full the efforts of the US, Qatar and Egypt to put an end to the fighting, get the aid in, get the hostages out and start the process in the end that must follow the military fighting, because there is no military solution to Gaza.
Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in an hour, but now it's back to Nigel.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
What a very good evening to all of you. I am delighted to be back on GB News. Been quite a bit going on in my life, one way and t'other. It is, of course, today, the 3rd of June. 1 year ago today, I announced my retirement from active politics had ended and decided I'd stand in the general election. And the reason I've not been with you for the last couple of months is, of course, because I've been leading a party fighting the English local elections. It's been a very busy and, I think, from my perspective, very productive time. It certainly had an impact, what a very big impact on the Prime Minister, who seemed to mention me 16 times in his speech the other day, which is quite remarkable. Anyway, I'm back on GB News and we're discussing the issues of the day and some stories that you might not yet have heard of, but perhaps should. As you know, last Saturday was the biggest day this year for the number of people, young men mostly, that crossed the English Channel. The numbers are 42% up on the year from this time last year and 95% up on the same point in 2023. In fact, the numbers that came on Saturday, just shy of 1,200, were the second biggest day ever in all of this. And normally, you would expect the biggest days to be August, September into October, especially when not just calm weather, but when sea temperatures are higher. If I was paying a trafficker to cross the Channel, I'd want to come when the sea was warmer and not colder. But I find it pretty extraordinary, this whole saga, that Number 10 say it's because of the number of red days, the number of days when people are able to cross, and that's why the numbers are up. And yet, the Conservatives tried the same trick. A couple of Christmases back, James cleverly said this is the first Christmas in years that people have not crossed the Channel, leading me to retort, you may be called cleverly, but you're clearly a moron. I'm close to Dover now. The wind has been gusting at 50 miles an hour. That is why there are no migrant crossings. You're all charlatans and liars and all deserve to lose your seats at the election. Well, it was Christmas time. Perhaps I was refreshed, I don't know. But it was blowing at 50 miles an hour. But there were the Conservatives claiming credit. But the truth was, the bad weather meant they couldn't. Following all of that, the former Labour leader Neil Kinnock said, following dropping crossings last year, Sunak took credit and claimed it had nothing to do with the weather. Now numbers are up, he blames the weather. Time to replace Tory boats chaos with Labour's cross-border police unit and 1,000 new immigration enforcement officers. And here we are with Labour doing it again. So both sides try to pretend that it's all because of the weather. But the truth is, are Labour credible when they say things like this? Tweet #Farage on GB News or email farage@gbnews.com. I think it's all nonsense. I'm joined by Kevin Saunders, former Chief Immigration Officer for Border Force over in Cali. Kevin, you know, we all know that people come when it's calmer than when it's rougher. But frankly, for both sides to try and claim credit or blame the weather, frankly, is ignoring the real problem, isn't it?
Oh, isn't it just, Nigel? It's so ridiculous, it's just not true. What's happening in real life is that this government have got no idea on how they're going to stop the boats. And all that's happening is the migrants are saying, thank you very much, and they're coming over whenever they possibly can. And it will continue. The biggest mistake that Starmer made was getting rid of Rwanda. We should have given Rwanda a chance. It might not have worked, but certainly without it, there is now no deterrent.
Well, I agree there's no deterrent, Kevin, but just to come back at you on that, you know, Rwanda didn't work because when that plane was on the tarmac, about to go, at 10 p.m. in Strasbourg, a judge said it couldn't go. Wasn't that really the problem?
Well, I mean, yes, we tend to blame Strasbourg, but the Europeans fall afoul of Strasbourg and they just ignore it.
Yes.
As you well know, yes. Nigel,
yes.
The Europeans, if they don't like what Strasbourg say, yes, they ignore it and carry on. And I had a conversation with a French colleague about Strasbourg, and he said he shrugged his shoulders, as the way the French do, and said, they'll see us in court in 10 years' time. Then it'll all be over and all be forgotten. Isn't that just true?
Yeah. No, Kevin, it is true, but we Brits are a law-abiding type, you see. That's the whole point, and we join a club and we obey its rules. One last quick thought, Kevin. Seems to me that the numbers this year could just go through the roof. Seems to me the French aren't really playing ball, despite having been given and pledged a staggering £800 million since 2014.
Yeah, they're getting £500,000 to stand on the beach and take photos of people getting in boats. I find it ridiculous, Nigel. We see the French riot police out in Paris en masse dealing with rioters after a football match.
Yeah.
And yet the gendarmerie in northern France, which actually has some CRS operatives in, are too frightened to go and deal with the people because, and I quote, they're throwing stones at us.
Oh, dear, dear, dear. Poor darlings. Kevin Saunders, as ever, a pleasure to have you on the panel. I'm joined by Lord Stephen McCabe, recently a member of the House of Lords after many years as an MP, Heather Wheeler, former Conservative Member of Parliament and former Parliamentary Secretary in the Cabinet Office. Let's face it, Stephen, smash the gangs never meant a blooming thing, did it?
Well, I'm not sure I'm going to agree with that at all. I think it is difficult, and I think we have seen some of the problems, the difficulties that the French are having coordinating intelligence to stop the boats. I think actually what Keir was doing in Albania the other week was right, because that is one of the key locus points for some of the traffic from Africa and the Middle East. So, I mean, if you're going to try and smash the gangs, then you actually have to go further back. And we did see, I think it was just last week, didn't we, the sentencing of the first gang boss in this country. So the problem is not enough is occurring at the moment. I don't think this is an easy problem. I mean, quite honestly, anybody who says they've got a glib answer to this, I think is probably a fool or a liar. But it's clear we're going to have to do more, and we're going to have to step up the action with other partners if we're going to be able to smash the gangs.
Where I take issue is this, that Australia faced the same problem. Remember, a few years ago, the boats were coming from Indonesia. Yeah. They were bigger boats with more people on them, but it was a similar problem. And in the end, Tony Abbott, the Prime Minister, gave up. He tried all the other routes available. He just towed the boats back to Indonesia. The UN went mad. The EU went mad. The British Foreign Office went mad. But the boats stopped coming. Aren't we going to have to do something? I mean, I've urged the Prime Minister twice to declare an emergency, given that I think there is a grave national security implication. Isn't it time we did something radical?
Well, I mean, I don't. It might sound good to say we'll tow the boats back to France. I'm sure that would do a great deal for our broader cooperation with them and other things. You know?
I get the point. I understand that it's not without risk, but public opinion won't put up with this, will it?
No, I think the public are very distressed. My own view is there has to be greater international cooperation. There has to be faster processing of people who arrive here, and I would prefer to see offshore processing so that we could actually make it easier for legitimate people to come and less of an incentive for illegitimate people to arrive.
I was pretty angry with Mr. Cleverly, as that Christmas tweet showed. But the point was, we had years of a Conservative government, different prime ministers, different home secretaries, different plans, and nothing changed. And it looks like it's going to get even worse now.
The difficulty is, exactly as you say, it is weather permitting, isn't it? And because we've got very, very good weather at the minute, it is just phenomenal. I thought the idea about smashing the gangs was that they were finding the way of the great big inflatables coming through Turkey and Germany. I thought the whole point of that was that they were going to be stopping. They weren't going to get from either Turkey to Germany or Germany to France. But that seems to have gone out the window.
Well, that's what I mean about trying to tackle it further back. To be honest, by the time they reach France, we've got a specific problem, but the numbers who are reaching France are a much bigger part of the problem.
But isn't the problem, Stephen, it's a bit like saying we're going to smash the drug gangs, right? I've been hearing for decades, we're going to smash the drug gangs. It almost doesn't matter how many gang leaders you put in prison or how long you put them in prison for. It almost doesn't matter how hard you try to stop dinghies that are being manufactured in Turkey coming in. Reason being, the financial rewards for the traffickers are so great, there's always somebody else to fill their shoes.
Yes, and actually part of smashing any major criminal element like that is to try and collapse the market, which is why you have to have other methods of cooperation as well. And when you do succeed in tackling some of the big players, you've got to take their assets off them.
Yeah.
Well, I get that point. I just think the money's so great, more people will come. Isn't the real truth of this that the only way we stop people coming is if we send out a message that if you come here illegally, through an illegal route, you won't be able to stay, you'll never get indefinite leave to remain?
Well, that's exactly what we tried to do, and as ever, we got pushback from the courts and from all the lovely people that get very upset about these things. But you're quite right. I mean, at the end of the day, we're a sovereign country, and we should be able to say what our laws are. And that's it for me.
So you feel the ECHR is a major barrier?
It's going to go. It's going to go.
It's going to go?
Yeah.
It's going to go. It's interesting. Going back a few years, when David Blunkett was Home Secretary, I'm saying 20 years ago, maybe almost 25 years ago, the ECHR was less active than it is these days. And Kevin Saunders' point was a good one, that we obey all the rules and everybody else ignores them. But when Blunkett was Home Secretary, he wouldn't have put up with this, would he? He'd have just deported people back to their home countries.
Well, I think we did have the problem of votes for prisoners during that period, and that was an ECHR
which they ignored.
Ruling. Well, we strung it out for a very long time. Look, I mean, I think I wouldn't be obsessed with the ECHR there. I think we can afford to challenge the rulings. I think there's a wider argument about reform of that court. But the reality here is that we've actually got to get more control. The point you made a second ago, making it clear that these people won't get citizenship would be one of the best. And the government has taken a big stride in that direction the other week.
Well, we could go further and say you won't get indefinite leave to remain.
We could, but actually at this stage, there will be some people in those boats, and you know this as well as me, who will actually pass the genuine refugee test. So you can't, it seems to me, you're assuming in advance what the outcome is. I think you can say if you come here by that route, you will not get citizenship. Yeah. Well, and that would be something that would be a big disincentive.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
So a new book will challenge the conventional view of Alzheimer's, claiming that for the vast majority of people, it is not an inevitable part of ageing, but something that can actually be prevented.
So we're joined in studio now Patrick Holford, chair of the Alzheimer's Prevention Expert Group, who joins us now. Patrick, it's a very powerful message, the idea that you can prevent Alzheimer's. There seems to be a sense that it's just inevitable with ageing for a lot of people. Why is it not?
It's not inevitable, because half of people don't get it. And one point to make very clearly is that less than 1 in 100 cases are caused by genes. So there's a few very, very rare genes which will cause Alzheimer's. So possibly for up to 99%, we can prevent it. And even a major UK biobank study, which, by the way, left out 2 of the most important risk factors, for reasons I'll explain, concluded that 73% can be prevented. Now, the terrible thing about Alzheimer's, which is really a shrinkage of the brain, is once you've got holes in your brain, there is no way to reverse that. The rate of brain shrinkage in people with pre-dementia reduced by 73%. In the latest drug, donanemab, the rate of brain shrinkage increased by 20%. So what we're really in right now is a pharmaceutically led sort of industry that is pushing for a cure I don't think a cure will come because there isn't a single point.
Well, the book is Alzheimer's Prevention is the Cure. Thank you so much, Patrick.
Foodforthebrain.org.
Patrick Holford, chair of the Alzheimer's Prevention Expert Group.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So I asked you, is it credible for Labour to blame the weather? Anonymous says it's very clear nobody in either the Tory or Labour Party ever bothered to really work on this. They've just been paying lip service to this outrage for decades. Well, this particular outrage, i.e. the Channel, has only been going on since 2018, but prior to that there were many coming in on the backs of lorries, and there still are. Becca says, let's make no mistake, Starmer has no intention of stopping the boats. The potential votes are far too precious to him. Now, come on. You know, I mean, it'll take quite a few years for them to get citizenship. I doubt they get it in, but they wouldn't get it in time for the next election. Now, yesterday was the defence spending review. This was Keir Starmer saying he's going to make the UK battle ready. It'll be the first increase in terms of manpower for the British Army for many, many years. There are going to be 12 new nuclear submarines. And it was a very, very big speech. But is it all enough? Or was it a slightly weak man trying to appear very, very strong? Well, I'm very pleased to be joined down the line by Sir Grant Shapps, former Defence Secretary. Now, Grant, welcome to the programme. I mean, Labour say, look, you know, it was during the 14 years of Conservative administration that the amount of money spent on defence fell, you know, way below what Labour were spending, and that, frankly, it's all your fault because you left them in a terrible mess.
Well, first of all, we were living in very different times. You had, you know, Putin sat around the G7 table as the G8. You had what was supposed to be the golden era of China, and all the threats seemed to be coming from not states but terrorism instead. And so I accept we were living in different times, but I also think we did cut this too far. And I say that as somebody who, on the record, was arguing for more money. I was arguing for 3% when it wasn't even fashionable to be arguing for 2%. And as Defence Secretary, I raised it to 2.5%, only for Keir to come in and drop it before U-turning many, many months later. So he's wasted this year when we could have been building up our defences. And I think that's the real pity of this.
Now, big speech. I mean, it was for the Prime Minister a very, very big speech, effectively putting us on a war footing, saying that we're going to increase our military resources. In line with that, do you think Labour's spending commitment matches the big words of the Prime Minister?
I thought it was an interesting speech and approach because I was saying at the beginning of 2024, we've moved from a sort of post-war era to a pre-war era, far more dangerous. We needed to, therefore raise our defence spending, us and the rest of Europe. In fact, we are outspend in absolute terms others. And at the time, Labour were quite quiet on it. As I say, I thought his words were in the right place. What isn't right is at the same time, or a week before making this big announcement, so-called yesterday, he also said he was going to give away control, or rather keep control, of the Chagos Islands, but give away the sovereignty and pay for the privilege of handing away what is rightfully ours. And here's the real rub, is that coming, those billions and billions of pounds, is that now coming from the money that they say they're putting in defence? The answer seems to be yes, in which case the defence budget is going to shrink, not rise, because that's up to £100 billion. And I know they argue about the figure, but anyone can add up 100 million times 100 years and work out the true scale of what they're proposing to do there.
Yeah, no, Grant, that's a very, very strong point. Thank you for joining us on the programme. Shapps makes a very strong point there, Stephen. The Chagos deal is blooming expensive for no benefit at all. And that does put the Prime Minister's big defence speech yesterday in some degree of doubt?
Well, I think this is a red herring, actually. The Tories are trying to pull on this. They, first of all, were largely responsible for negotiating the Chagos deal. Labour came in and topped and tailed it. It was always an agreement with the Americans that part of the outcome would be that we would rent back the base. So, I mean, I frankly don't see why this has been...
The Americans aren't going to pay a penny for this.
No, I said it was a deal agreed with the Americans that we would rent back the base.
We didn't have to do any of this.
Well, I mean, you can argue about that. You should actually have been asking Grant why they opened up the negotiations in the first place and why they were virtually concluded by the time he came to power.
I think they have some guilt in this too.
Right.
But
it has very little to do with the defence review. The point I'm making is the defence review is something where all parties should be able to agree that there is a threat now. There's no doubt about it. We do need to grow our defence. We can argue about what happens in the past. Grant says it was a different era. That's true, although shrinking the army to 70,000 was a fundamental mistake, and I accept that he asked for more money and then he says he promised 2.5%, but he didn't have any funding scheduled for it.
Do the actions match the words of the Prime Minister? Well, these were big words yesterday.
We are going to have to go further. I have no doubt about that. We are going to have to find more resources, and if we can't take them from other departments and elsewhere, we're going to have to be more creative. I mean, during the war, we did have war bonds. Maybe we should have defence bonds. I am personally an advocate of that approach. But whatever happens, we're going to have to find extra money. But it shouldn't be a party political issue. This is about the security of the country, and everybody, I think, understands it's time to step up.
Half a cheer for the Prime Minister yesterday, even if the spending commitments and a slight confusion over the weekend don't necessarily quite match the words. He is saying the right things, is he?
He's saying the right things. We've got to see the substance behind it. I mean, I'm absolutely delighted for Rolls-Royce in Derby. I'm absolutely delighted for Barrow-on-Trent. All those new munitions, the big factories. Barrow-on-Furness. Barrow-on-Trent. That really is home territory.
Don't worry.
If we get great big boats coming up the Trent, we really are.
They brew beer in that.
They certainly do. My husband was a brewer, quite right. But it is important that we follow through on this. That's the top and bottom of it. And I don't think there's any argument. And you know, everybody's shouting around the edges, aren't they? So we're all there on this one. But I do think people are slightly redrawing history. There was the peace dividend. We didn't need that sort of force of army. Things have changed. We do need the cyber. Do we really need more than 70,000 boots on the ground? I don't know.
Well, isn't it a funny thing, though? Isn't it a funny thing, Stephen, with, you know, drones and the extraordinary strikes that we saw from the Ukrainians against the Russians, and I think they were helped by a bigger country to do that. I won't speculate too deeply, but they must have been. It's interesting. It's very, very interesting. But we still need... Any war, at the end of it or during it, we still need boots on the ground, don't we?
Well, tragically, I mean, what we're seeing with Ukraine, although we are seeing some wonderful innovation, we are seeing that essentially this is a very old-fashioned ground war in lots of respects. And, you know, the current estimates are that we don't have sufficient troops if we were involved in a major conflict. So, I mean, I think we do need boots on the ground.
So do I.
But I think we need all the other innovation as well. And it is absolutely true, as Heather says, that, you know, there is a dividend in this. This will bring jobs and stability to many parts
and manufacturing
of the country.
Yes.
And, you know, yes, the announcement of the factories in the speech. I think there are major benefits in this. I don't think Britain... looking to secure its own defence is doing anything that we should be ashamed of. We're actually in a position where we're creating jobs and potential wealth.
I don't think any of us are suggesting that. I think the only question is, do taxes have to rise to pay for it? I think the question is, why chuck all this money away on Chagos? I think the question is, do the projected spend in the short term actually match the words? But I think the direction of travel is welcomed by not everybody, but pretty much everybody. In a moment, it's going to be our What the Farage debate. We're going to start off asking a question. Why are they flying the LGBT flag over the MI6 building for the whole month of June? I don't know. Maybe my panel can help me.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The recent heat wave is easing across parts of Spain and Portugal, but plenty of severe thunderstorms remain across northern parts of Europe. But across the Canary Islands, Spain, Portugal, mostly settled, a little cloudy at times, but we could see some quite severe thunderstorms across southern France, southern Germany, northern parts of Italy. This could bring frequent lightning, hail and also some strong winds. But elsewhere across the central and eastern parts of the Mediterranean, plenty of sunshine and temperatures are on the up through the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening, I'm here with your GB News weather coming to you from the Met Office. It is still going to stay quite blustery with some further showers across northern parts overnight, and I think many of us will notice that it is a fair bit fresher than recent nights as well. It's all due to low pressure to the north of us, keeping those blustery winds, especially, like I said, towards the north, and we do have fresher air than of late across us too. Like I said, the showers across northern parts continuing through the night. They could merge into some longer spells of rain for Scotland and Northern Ireland in particular. Elsewhere, and apart from a few showers across western parts of England and Wales, it's looking largely dry, and there will be some clear skies around. The clear skies combined with that fresher air I mentioned, meaning that it is going to turn a little bit cooler than it has done through some recent nights. Nonetheless, we're not expecting a frost or anything, of course not. It's early June, but it is going to be a cool start to the day, a bright one for many across England and Wales. Just a few showers here and there towards the west. More showers as we head further north, these continuing through the night and continuing as we go through Wednesday, particularly across western parts of Scotland and much of Northern Ireland. Eastern Scotland towards Aberdeenshire, perhaps actually starting the day on a largely dry note. But as we go through the day, the showers generally are going to become a bit more widespread. There could be some heavy ones, even the odd rumble of thunder can't be ruled out. And all the time, across northern parts in particular, some blustery winds, slightly lighter winds further south and actually across some central eastern parts, largely avoiding the showers, so staying generally dry. Temperatures on paper are going to be down a few degrees compared to recent days, but slightly lighter winds than we've had today. Then as we go through into Thursday, there's a swathe of wet weather pushing its way across much of England and Wales. That clears away towards the east with showers following in behind, and a few showers across Scotland and Northern Ireland too, but perhaps fewer than we're expecting through tomorrow. Otherwise, through the end of the week and into the weekend, well, more showers to come for many of us. Bye-bye.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Juber, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So the What the Farage real moment of the day is that just one day after the Strategic Defence Review, we've been discussing how important all of that is, the head of MI6 posts a boastful tweet to mark Pride Month and to stand in solidarity with the LGBTQ plus colleagues. MI6 is proudly flying the Pride flag from Vauxhall Cross along the inside the Union flag for the whole month of June. This is nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. We just don't need this. I quite honestly, it really makes me angry. It's not what our intelligence services are for. I don't mind them flying the national flag, But this, well, help me, Stephen. I mean, have I got something wrong here? Is any of this necessary?
Well, the security services are practiced in the art of deception. So, I'm not sure what we're going to see. I think, actually, this is an example of life imitating art. I noticed in the last Bond movie, 007 was a woman and Q turned out to be gay. So I suspect that's what's happening here.
And Doctor who knows? We don't need this nonsense, do we?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't treat it too seriously. To be perfectly honest, I don't think it is that important one way or t'other. I'm surprised at it, but, you know, it makes little difference to me. What I want to know is that we're recruiting decent agents who can do the job that they're being paid to do. And quite frankly, I don't care very much about their sex or their gender.
No, nor do I, which is why I don't want to see the flag. I don't care. I'm not interested.
I think that we're beyond whether we're interested or not interested. It's just pandering, isn't it? It's part of that woke thing where people just think it's the right thing to do. I think society's moved on. I genuinely do. Look after your staff, make sure you employ the right people, and you don't have to do anything than have a staff member of the month.
I know.
You know, you celebrate internally. You don't need to do that.
And this whole wokery has gone through not just government, but much of the corporate sector too. I think the pendulum will come back on all of it. Now, more seriously, failed COVID contracts, during the time of the last government, through over-ordering and delays in checking it, rendering some of it out of date, some of it useless, we're now told will have cost the taxpayer up to £762 million, which is unlikely ever to be recovered. Some money has been recovered, but nearly 800 million will never be recovered. And Stephen, you know, of course, government was under huge pressure. We understand that. But we have an inquiry that is going on for year after year after year. Is anybody ever going to be held accountable for the mistakes that were made during lockdown and with PPE procurement?
Well, I hope so, because, you know, I mean, I think the overall figure is about higher than the 750.
This is the unrecoverable.
This was the unrecoverable. I think if you add in the other 673 million, I mean, we're about 1.4 billion. Now, I know it was a terrible time, and I know there were panics and there were mistakes made, and I don't particularly want to see anyone being punished for making a mistake in good faith. But it's undoubtedly true that the acquisition of PPE was more than just a mistake, and there were some very suspect elements attached to it. People getting contracts, buying things that were unusable, people getting contracts who'd never produced the material before. And I would think that whoever is responsible for letting contracts like that or purchasing equipment like that has to be identified and should be prosecuted.
Well, this is what I think. And Heather, I just think this whole inquiry is a whitewash. It's due to go on for 3.5 years. I mean, these are very large sums of money. There are, and I think Stephen was sort of intimating that perhaps contracts were going to people that maybe they shouldn't have been. This is a disgrace.
You weren't an MP at the time.
True.
Steve will remember, we were at home, we were working 18 hours a day in, day out, looking after our constituents, trying to get things sorted. All sorts of constituents were coming to us saying, we can get you this, we can get you that. We knew there was the VIP route. We pushed people there. We said, we can't vouch for them, but they say they can get X, Y, Z. We brought the army in, the logistics people, to look at things. And there was a fantastic gold team that looked at these things. But even so, they were taken over. We had that enormous shipment from Turkey, and something like 2/3 of it was completely unusable. Everybody was running to stand still.
Is anybody going to be held to account?
They will.
Ever?
They will.
Well, I don't think they will. Final thought. Tim Davie, the boss, the Director General of the BBC, says we should pay a higher licence fee. This after a year when 500,000 people, fewer, are paying the licence fee, chiefly because young people don't watch television in the way that previous generations did. Good idea, bad idea?
Well, good luck to him, but I don't think he's got much of a chance with that one at the moment.
I think he's probably just trying to protect his brand and protect his staff, because they would expect him to ask for it, wouldn't they?
They would. Thank you to my panel. In a moment, we're going to discuss a case, the Lawn Castle case, the police officer who was being dismissed. We're going to show you what happened on the streets of Bournemouth 18 months ago and how Dorset police have reacted. And I think this case raises some very serious questions, not just about why this man has been sacked, but really, why would anyone want to become a police officer today?
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I am joined in the studio by Lawn Castle, a dismissed police constable after 9 years of distinguished service. Lawn, welcome to the studio. This is somebody who's been a commended officer, twice been commended for saving the lives of members of the public, indeed in one case putting his own safety at risk to rescue a woman from being swept away in a flooded river. But what happened in this particular incident was there was a 15-year-old youth who was wanted in connection with an assault on an elderly member of the public in Bournemouth and was suspected of being part of a gang attack at a McDonald's restaurant. He was arrested by Lawn Castle. As this happened, a knife fell out of his pocket. Subsequently, all charges against the boy were dropped, both for the assaults and for carrying a knife. But there is a piece of footage of Lawn Castle tackling this youth, and this is something that Dorset police want you to see, because they think this proves that this particular officer acted in a way that was completely over the top. I'm going to show you this footage. If you're feeling a bit fragile, perhaps turn away.
You're under arrest! You're under arrest! Get on the floor!
Get down on the
now!
floor! Get down on the floor!
Now!
Right,
You're under arrest at the moment on suspicion of assault. Assault.
So, as a result of all of this, at a hearing last Thursday, Lorncastle has been found guilty of serious, gross breaches of professional conduct and sacked. The footage that we've just shown, which actually was put out after this programme spoke to Dorset Police, they believe that shows your guilt, that you acted in a way that was over the top. So tell us a bit about the circumstances.
Yeah, it was the end of a shift. Responded to a call that was, in my opinion, sounded obviously quite urgent. The facts were as you said.
Yep.
Noticed the offender, did a dynamic risk assessment and responded exactly as the video shows. The intention was to arrest a potentially violent subject without any injuries and to make sure it's safe. The result was the suspect was arrested, there were no injuries, there was no complaint, and also a knife was removed from the street.
Yeah.
So that is really
I mean, the context of this, so you were on your own?
No, I was with another colleague.
One other
was in
colleague.
the car. That's whose video footage you can see.
Yeah, yeah. And the boy wasn't on his own, was he?
No.
Because that video shows a slightly different story. He was there part of, I mean, how many were there?
I don't know. There was at least two, there was three walking up the street. But once we were on the ground, I did become aware, my peripheral vision, there were others, and there's a witness statement who verifies that as well. Like I say, it's not a nice situation to be in ever, and I'm sure a lot of officers have been in that situation, which is why I'm here now, because any mistake, pause, hesitation can have dramatic results. So I can't really talk about the incident, but that's what I'm concerned about. For every officer that goes out there and looks at doing this sort of...
Because it's a fairly stat decision you have to make, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, you see a situation, you've got a few seconds to make your mind up. Is this a broader problem? I mean, we've had before, over the months in this studio, we've had people who have been former firearms officers, really worried that what they do in a split decision, can effectively ruin them professionally. And is recruitment to the police going to become a problem if people think whatever they're doing, if something that happens in 5 or 10 seconds could end their career?
I can't really comment on that, but what I will say is I know I made that split decision with no ill intent. My intention was good, which is why I've maintained my innocence and my dignity throughout it all, because I know my own mindset. Now, the fear that this is going to send through anyone, and even myself, depending what happens, if anything I do where I know my decision-making is good, could be analysed by somebody almost like a sport, armchair critiquing it down the line, sitting there going, well, I wouldn't have done that, you could have done that. And then a year and a half down the line, asked to expand fully on it, it's going to make you pause. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I think that's something that needs to be looked at. Because if you've got officers that maybe might not make the right decisions in those circumstances, then maybe there's something wrong with the recruitment on the way in.
Yeah. But there was a witness to all of this. This is the bit I don't understand, that there was an independent witness who saw all of this, and perhaps we can put this up on the screen for our guests to see. I heard a noise which sounded like a shouting command, and I got out of the car to find out what the shouting was about. Across the road, up the hill, on the opposite side outside the Daily Echo offices, I saw a male officer trying to restrain a suspect. I rang the police as I was concerned for the officer. I could see a crowd of 5 or 6 people around him, some with camera phones, yelling at the officer. I believe the officer may have been too busy restraining a suspect to put out a call, as he had his hands full, and that's why I thought I'd call the police. I told the operator that an officer was currently restraining and arresting someone outside the offices, and that they ought to send additional help because a large crowd was beginning to build up. So this is an independent member of the public who described exactly what they saw. and was fearful for you. Fearful for the situation you were in, not for a 15-year knife-carrying 15-year-old. I mean, has this witness statement been taken account of properly?
The witness statement was read out in my hearing.
Yeah.
But I don't think it carried any weight, unfortunately. But for my personal heart of hearts, it made me realise, yes, everything I could see out of my peripheral vision, everything there, my risk assessment was right.
Yeah.
And you know, without a member of the public phoning in to actually do that at the time, which they did, it was on the call log, then, you know, you're subject to whatever anyone decides to watch your body worn and then analyse that. My whole career could rest on that one statement. So I'm so thankful for him to phone in, or her to phone in, for them to phone in.
But you have got an appeal.
I don't know whether I'm allowed an appeal. I have to wait until one of the regulations comes through as to whether I was dismissed on grounds that I'm allowed to appeal on. So that's why there's certain things I can't say.
This is the gross breaches of professional conduct.
So obviously, once that's come through, I'll see whether I'm allowed to appeal for first off anyway. So I might not even be allowed.
And the impact on you, your family?
You know, I'm 46 years old. Anyone that knows me, I came into policing, like I say, about 9-10 years ago. Prior to that, I was in the sports industry, went to Bournemouth University, did law. I'm known by a lot of people. I've had a confident life. I'm happy, and I get on with people. And the last year and a half, since they put me on restricted duties, they put a restriction. I'm not allowed face-to-face contact with people, isolated, fearful of well, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to pay the mortgage and bring money home to see how this goes. I have really held it together. And I just want to say, like I said in the video afterwards, especially the days of a hearing, which were horrendous, and I'm quite a strong, confident character, it could have broken me. But I had such good support, and I really feel out for every officer that's messaged me and said they probably didn't have that and they cracked under pressure. And it is a really hard job. And that's why I'm here. Not just for me, but for everyone. For everyone that wears that uniform, that goes out and does the right job.
Yeah.
You know, I'm hoping that some good comes of this, even if I don't get any job back or anything.
Lorne, thank you.
Thank you.
For coming in, discussing that with us. I've got a response here from Dorset Police. Police found that he had failed to act with self-control during the incident and didn't treat the boy with courtesy and respect. And this comes from a Deputy Chief Constable, Rachel Farrell. And we go on. I have the utmost respect for the vast majority of officers who have to use force when making an arrest, and to do so appropriately and with professionalism, even when they are exposed to risk and violence. Well, there you are, Jacob Rees-Mogg. You should have, this 15-year-old lout should have been shown courtesy. Can you believe these stories? Something's wrong, isn't it?
Something deeply wrong. I'm quite a believer in courtesy and respect. You're arresting a criminal. Who is this booby from Dorset Police who says, would you mind awfully coming on? You're not doing some old granny. I cannot understand this. And he had a knife. And we know how much knife crime goes on of children. The Old Bailey is full of stabbings that have taken place, of children who've been killed by other children with knives. And this is a brave policeman doing his job, and a booby sitting behind a desk puts out a wet statement saying courtesy and respect for a criminal.
I really worry, you know, about how you're going to recruit quality people. This is how you treat people.
Well, I worry about policing. I worry what the priorities of the leadership are. So they arrest people who have committed non-hate crime incidents and send 6 people round.
The Alison Pearson case, of course, being a famous one.
Alison Pearson, all of that. And they're not dealing with real criminals. And when a policeman makes a tough decision, they go through it as armchair generals. I mean, it's absolutely hopeless.
In brief,
what are we talking about? Well, we're going to start, actually, thanks to you, saying we should start drilling in the North Sea again.
Very good. Marvellous.
So it's another attack on the madness of net zero, inspired by the one and only Nigel
Well,
Farage.
I was in Aberdeen yesterday meeting big industry bosses, and the worry is that as we sort of close down the North Sea, we start to lose all the infrastructure behind it. We could pass a point of no return. And Norway, on the other side of the... laughing their socks off at us.
And New Zealand's just started restarting.
Stay the nation in a moment with Jacob. First, though, the all-important weather with Alex Burkill.